I still don't know how I'm alive to tell this, and if you're watching this, you need to hear what happened from the very beginning, because the river didn't just drag me away that day, it tried to erase me. And the strange thing is, what happened after I got out of the water was far worse than anything that happened inside it. The real fight didn't start until my feet touched the shore again, and nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for that. If you stay with me until the end, you'll understand why I still wake up some nights thinking I can hear that river breathing behind me, and why I don't go anywhere near running water anymore. It all started on what was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway. I'd been stressed, burnt out, pushing myself through long work days, telling myself that a break would magically fix everything. So I drove out to a remote part of the valley, a place most people forgot existed, where the hills dipped low and the river curved like a silver blade cutting through the land. It wasn't exactly a tourist spot. No signs, no lifeguards, no marked trails. Just nature as it was, untouched and uncurated. I'd been there once before with friends. This time I went alone. The sky was overcast but calm enough. The water looked slow, deceptively slow, and I kept telling myself I knew this river. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't the type to take stupid risks. I just wanted a moment to breathe, to dip my feet in the water, maybe sit on the rocks and let the world quiet down for a bit. That's how it always begins, right? With you thinking you're in control. I walked down to the bank, the mud soft beneath my boots. The river didn't look threatening. It wasn't roaring or foaming. It didn't give any sign of what was waiting under the surface. And that was my first mistake. Thinking danger always announces itself. I slipped off my boots, rolled my pants up, and stepped in. The water was colder than I expected. Not refreshing cold, shocking cold. It bit into my skin like something alive. I remember letting out a short breath as the current wrapped around my legs. Even then I thought, okay, it's stronger than last time. Just stay near the edge. But the edge didn't matter. The river had other plans. I took one step too far, just one, and the river yanked my foot out from under me. It didn't feel like slipping. It felt like being grabbed. One second I was standing, the next I was horizontal, my face hitting the water, the current twisting me around like I weighed nothing. I gasped and water rushed into my mouth, forcing itself into me. Everything became noise. Rushing water, my own heartbeat exploding in my ears. The scrape of rocks against my legs as the river dragged me deeper, farther, faster. People say that when you're trapped, everything slows down. Not for me. Everything sped up so violently I couldn't process any of it. I was rolling, spinning, hitting the riverbed, then being lifted again. My arms flailed, grabbing at nothing. I tried to swim sideways the way you're supposed to escape a current, but the river didn't care about rules. It just kept pulling. I didn't know how far I'd been dragged until the banks blurred into a single streak of green and gray. Branches whipped past my face, rocks tore at my clothes. I couldn't breathe long enough to call for help. I don't know how many minutes passed before I realized I wasn't fighting the current anymore, just trying to stay conscious. There was a moment, one terrifying, surreal moment, when I felt the water pull me under completely. No sunlight, no sound except the drone of the current. I remember seeing the surface above me distort into a trembling mirror, and beneath me, darkness I couldn't gauge the depth of. I had this instinctive thought, sharp and primal. If I go any deeper, I won't come back up. I kicked. I clawed at the water with everything I had. My chest burned so violently I thought it would crack open. I reached upward blindly, my hands breaking the surface for a split second before the river slammed me back down. It wanted me. That's the only way I can describe it. It wanted to keep me. Then, something changed. My shoulder struck a submerged log, spinning me sideways. That impact, violent as it was, pushed me toward the bank. I didn't think, I just reached. My fingers brushed against something solid, a root, thick and tangled, jutting out of the mud. I grabbed it. The river tried to rip me away again, but this time I held on with everything I had left. My body felt like it was splitting in two, arms burning, legs numbing, lungs screaming. The current wasn't strong enough to pull me back under, but it wasn't weak enough to let me climb out easily. I had to time it, wait for the water to surge just a little less, twist my body, grab another root, then another. It felt like an eternity before I dragged myself halfway out of the river, collapsing onto the mud like something half-formed and shaking. My clothes were shredded, my knees were bleeding, my throat felt raw, but I was alive, and for a few seconds, that's all that mattered, until I looked around and realized I had no idea where I was. The river had dragged me miles, literally miles from where I started. The trees looked different, taller, older, packed closely together. The air had a strange heaviness to it. There were no trails, no signs of footsteps, no sound of cars or people, just the low rumble of the water behind me and a forest so still it felt unnatural. My first thought was to get my bearings. My second thought was that my phone, which had been in my pocket, was gone, probably ripped out by the current. I checked my bag, also gone. Everything I'd brought with me had vanished into the river. At that point, survival mode kicked in. I knew I had to find a road, a trail, anything, but standing up felt like trying to lift a body that wasn't mine. My muscles spasmed from exhaustion. My arms shook uncontrollably. I was ice cold, drenched head to toe, and the wind cutting through the forest wasn't helping. Still, I forced myself to move. I took maybe 10 steps before I realized something was wrong. At first, I thought it was just the adrenaline wearing off. You know that weird buzzing feeling when your body suddenly realizes how close it came to losing the fight? But this wasn't just trembling nerves or cold. This was different. It felt like I wasn't alone. Not like someone was watching me. More like the whole forest was listening to me. Like every leaf and branch was holding its breath. The deeper I walked, the stronger that feeling grew. Even the air felt denser, heavier, like it was pressing against my skin. And the silence. It wasn't normal silence. It was deliberate, manufactured. I kept moving, trying to ignore it, but every sound I made echoed strangely. My footsteps squelching in the mud, my breathing, the occasional snap of a twig under my heel. It all sounded too loud, as if the forest was amplifying every noise. Then I heard it. A single crack. Not from my feet, from behind me. I froze, slowly turned. Nothing. No animal, no movement. Just the trees standing impossibly still. I told myself it was a branch falling. Happens all the time in forests, right? But when I turned back around and took another step, I heard it again. Closer this time. I didn't call out. Instinct told me not to. I don't know why. Maybe because the silence felt hostile somehow. Like speaking into it would announce something I wasn't ready to deal with. So I just kept walking. Faster now, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. Another crack. Then another. Then the sound of something brushing lightly against the undergrowth. Not running, not snarling, just keeping pace with me. I stopped pretending it wasn't happening. Whatever it was, it had been following me since I left the river. My breathing quickened. I scanned the trees again, still nothing. But the footsteps continued, stealthy but present, matching me step for step. I felt my chest tighten. My hands started to shake again, though not from the cold this time. I wasn't just lost. I wasn't just exhausted. I was being tracked. I pushed forward, branches slapping against my arms, mud pulling at my feet. The forest floor dipped, then rose again. My clothes stuck to my skin like heavy slabs of clay. My vision kept blurring at the edges, and the footsteps behind me grew bolder, still subtle, but no longer trying to hide. That's when I saw the footprint. A single impression in the mud. Fresh, deep, human-shaped, but distorted. Too long. The arch too pronounced. The toes separated wider than natural. I froze. Whatever was following me wasn't walking barefoot, and it definitely wasn't human. My throat tightened. I don't know how long I stared at that footprint before forcing myself to move again. I kept my eyes ahead, not daring to look back. My legs felt weak, unsteady, but panic pushed me forward. The forest thickened until the canopy blocked out most of the light. It felt like stepping into a different world entirely, one untouched by time. The air smelled damp and old, like something ancient was breathing just out of sight. Ahead of me, I spotted a fallen tree, massive, covered in moss, its roots twisted like claws. I climbed over it, scraping my palms. The moment my feet hit the ground on the other side, I heard something large step onto the same fallen trunk behind me. Not hesitating, not unsure, deliberate, purposeful, and close enough that the wood groaned under its weight. My pulse hammered as I broke into a run. Not a sprint, because my body couldn't handle that. Not after what the river did to me. But fast enough that every step felt like it might be the one that made my legs give out. The problem was, the forest didn't want me running. Vines caught my ankles, branches snagged my clothes. Roots rose out of nowhere like they were trying to trip me. And behind me, whatever was following didn't stumble once. It moved smoothly, fluidly, like it belonged there. I didn't. I don't know how long I ran before the terrain suddenly dropped and I slid down a slope of wet earth, tumbling, scraping my elbows and forearms as I crashed to the bottom. I lay there for a second, dazed, the world spinning, my lungs burning. Then I heard it again. A slow exhale. Not human. Not animal. Something in between. So close it felt like it was directly above me. I forced myself up, stumbling forward on shaky legs. My vision doubled for a moment. My ears rang. Every breath felt like it was slicing me from the inside. But I kept moving because stopping wasn't an option. Not anymore. I don't know how, but eventually the trees thinned just enough to let a streak of daylight through. I followed it, clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, I was nearing a clearing, a trail. Anything that would lead me back to civilization. But I was wrong. The clearing I emerged into wasn't salvation. It was the beginning of the real fight, and the thing that had been following me was finally done hiding. The clearing stretched out in front of me like a wound carved into the forest. No birds, no wind, just a wide circle of trampled earth bordered by towering trees that leaned inward, as if they were watching. I stepped forward slowly, every instinct screaming that I shouldn't be there. But my legs kept moving, maybe because I knew I couldn't go back, and I had nothing left to lose. That's when I heard it, leaves shifting behind me, methodical and unhurried. I didn't turn at first. I just stood there, breathing hard, trying to stay upright. My legs trembled with each breath. My arms felt like dead weight. The river had drained me, chewed me up and spit me into this place. And now whatever had been stalking me since the bank was ready to finish what the water started. When I finally turned, it wasn't at a sound. It wasn't because something moved closer. It was because the air changed, grew colder, heavier, like the atmosphere itself thickened. I turned because my body reacted before my mind did. And that's when I saw it. Or rather, I saw the outline first. A shape just beyond the line where the trees began, blending with the shadows. Thin, too tall, unmoving. I couldn't make out features. I couldn't see its face. It was like it absorbed the light around it. The only thing I could distinguish was its posture. Upright, silent, patient. Waiting. I stepped back once. The shape didn't move, but something else did. The earth near its feet shifted just slightly, as if something long dragged across it. Then the shape leaned forward, not stepping, not lunging, just bending unnaturally far, like its spine didn't work the way a human spine did. I stumbled again, my boots sliding against the dirt, and that small sound, just that, made the thing tilt its head. That movement alone nearly sent my legs collapsing beneath me. I didn't think. I broke into a run toward the opposite side of the clearing. My breath tore through my throat. My vision blurred again. I could barely keep myself stable, but the survival instinct overpowered everything else. Fear, pain, exhaustion. Behind me, I heard it move. Not fast, not frantic, just steady, unrushed. As if it knew I wouldn't get far. I crashed through branches, thorns ripping my arms, mud splashing up my legs. The forest swallowed me again. For a moment I thought maybe I'd put distance between us, but then I heard it. A single snap of a branch behind me. Loud. Too loud. Close. I didn't look. I couldn't. My mind was focused on one thing. Keep moving. Even when my legs felt like they were screaming. Even when my lungs burned so deeply I feared they'd give up. Even when my vision flickered with dark spots. Then I saw something through the trees. Movement. But this time it wasn't the thing stalking me. It was a glimmer. Faint. Metallic. A flash of silver through the foliage. I pushed toward it, forcing myself through the undergrowth. Branches slapped my face. Roots nearly took me down. But then I burst through the last row of trees and stumbled into another clearing. Smaller than the first, but different. There was a fence, a rusted old, barely standing wire fence running along the tree line. And beyond it, structures, man-made shapes, faded roofs, collapsed beams. A long-forgotten logging camp or ranger outpost rotting quietly in the middle of nowhere. I could smell the old wood, moss-covered and damp. But to me, it smelled like hope. If there were buildings, there might be tools, shelter, something I could use. Anything. I rushed toward the fence, climbed it clumsily, tearing more fabric from my clothes. I hit the ground hard on the other side, rolled, and pushed myself up again. My legs barely held me. That's when I heard it behind the fence. A long, slow inhale. I didn't wait to see it. I ran toward the nearest structure, a half-collapsed cabin with one wall missing. I ducked inside, crouched low, trying to steady my breathing. My heart felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. I looked around frantically. The cabin was empty except for broken planks and decomposing insulation. I scanned the floor and spotted something near the corner. An old rusted shovel, the handle cracked but still intact enough to grip. I grabbed it, even though it felt useless. Even though I knew whatever was following me probably wasn't something a shovel could stop. But when you're desperate, even the smallest piece of metal feels like a lifeline. The air outside shifted again. I heard the fencing rattle, not like something climbing it, but like something brushing past it. Slow, deliberate. I tightened my grip on the shovel. My palms were slick with water and mud. My legs threatened to buckle. I could barely breathe without coughing, and every cough felt like my ribs might snap. Then, without warning, the forest fell into total silence again. And the silence meant one thing. It was close. My fight or flight instinct screamed inside me. But flight wasn't an option anymore. I knew that deep inside. I could barely stand, let alone run. The river had taken everything from me physically, and whatever was following me had taken what was left mentally. All I could do was wait. I kept my back against the remaining wall of the cabin, holding the shovel like a spear. Every second stretched into hours. Time didn't feel real. Only fear was real. Then something moved near the entrance. Not footsteps, just a shift in shadow. Too smooth, too slow. Like it wasn't walking, as it was gliding. I held my breath. The shadow grew larger as it neared the open side of the cabin. My hands clenched around the shovel until my fingers hurt. I felt my pulse in my teeth. The doorway darkened slightly, and I knew it was right there, just out of sight. I don't know why I yelled. Maybe it was fear boiling over. Maybe my body realized that silence wasn't going to save me. I shouted and swung the shovel at the darkness. The metal struck something, not flesh, not bone, but something solid enough to send a vibration shooting up my arms. The blow knocked me sideways and I hit the ground hard. The shovel clattered away from me. I scrambled for it, but the shadow shot backward into the tree line so fast it felt unreal. No sound, no growl, just motion. Gone. The forest went quiet again, but not empty. I didn't wait to understand. I grabbed the shovel and stumbled out of the cabin, heading deeper into the abandoned outpost. I could barely think straight anymore, but I knew staying still would be a mistake. Whatever had retreated into the trees wasn't gone. It was repositioning. I moved between the ruined structures, each one as decayed as the last. No signs of recent use, no tools worth taking, no clues as to who built the place or why it had been abandoned. Just ghost buildings. And behind me, the forest kept watching. I felt it over my shoulder like a weight pressing against my spine. Every time I turned around, there was nothing there, just trees and shadows. But the feeling didn't fade. It only grew heavier, thicker, more suffocating. I kept moving until the outpost ended abruptly in another fence, collapsed this time, with only a few posts still standing. Beyond it was a rocky slope leading upward. At the top, sunlight broke through the clouds, lighting the ridge. A ridge meant height. Height meant visibility. Visibility meant maybe seeing a road. I dropped the shovel. It was too heavy now, dragging me down more than protecting me. I climbed. My hands slipped on the wet rocks. My muscles spasmed with every pull. I dragged myself up the slope using elbows, knees, anything that worked. My breathing turned into pained gasps. At one point, I nearly slid all the way back down, catching myself on a root at the last second. When I finally reached the ridge, I collapsed on my stomach, coughing hard. Then I saw it. A road. A narrow dirt service road, but a road nonetheless. A human-made path cutting between the hills. And there, faint, distant but real, was the sound of an engine. I forced myself up. My legs trembled violently. My vision blurred again, then refocused as I stumbled toward the road. Behind me, from the forest below, I heard one last sound. A low, drawn-out exhale, almost disappointed. I didn't look back. I fell onto the road just as an ATV rounded the bend. Two men in reflective uniforms riding it. They jumped off, shouting, asking if I was hurt, what happened, where I came from. I tried to answer, but only managed a choked sob. They helped me up, wrapped me in a thermal blanket, loaded me onto the ATV and radioed for assistance. One of them kept glancing toward the ridge behind me like he sensed something too. I didn't tell them about the shadow in the trees. I didn't tell them what followed me for miles after the river nearly took my life. Some things don't translate well into words, but when they asked me why I kept looking over my shoulder, even after they told me I was safe, I just said, because I'm not sure the forest let me go. I think it just got bored. It's been months now. I'm home, healed physically at least. But I still avoid mirrors at night because sometimes I swear I see tree lines where there shouldn't be any. I still hear that exhale in my dreams. And the river? I don't go near it. Or any river for that matter. What I faced inside that water was nothing compared to what waited for me on land. The current dragged me miles away, but the forest almost kept me forever. Thank you for listening to my story. It means more than you know that you stayed with me until the end. If this video resonated with you, or if you enjoy stories of survival and the unknown, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who loves a good, chilling tale. Your support keeps these stories alive, and again, thank you for being here.